Chapter 1697. Xiao Sanpang didn't understand. He arched a brow. Because of me? Did you fall for my beauty? I know I'm handsome, but I don't have any thoughts of snatching you away from scheming Qin. Bo Jiao smirked. Almighty fatty, don't worry. I can't admire someone as handsome as you. Then why? Do you want to learn culinary skills? Zhao Sanpang's talkative nature was triggered. You came to the right place. Let me tell you, the tomato scrambled eggs I make now is very delicious. Bo Jiao replied slowly, those who have a partner don't need to learn how to cook. Besides, I have a disciple. Xiao Sanpang. He couldn't continue the conversation. You should take a look at the delivery. Bo Jiao smiled. You'll understand. Delivery. Zhao Sanpang's gaze landed on the small wooden box in her right hand. He still felt that something was amiss when scheming Qin didn't come. What exactly was inside the small wooden box? Zhao Sanpang reached out to open it. There was something that looked like a tablet inside. It was thinner and smaller than a common iPad. He glanced up at Bo Jiao. Did you make this? The youngster replied lazily, the main point is the content inside. What? Xiao Sanpang paused. His eyes slowly widened. There seemed to be huge waves in his eyes. The fluctuation was so obvious that his pupils were shaking. When did this happen? 3 days ago. Bo Jiao sat there with one hand supporting the side of her face. Her messy silver hair fell down. She looked like an oriental vampire. How is it? Do you want to come back? Zhao Sanpang suppressed the raging air in his chest. His voice was hoarse. Why do you want to come back? We have already retreated. You know how they treated Luo Luo and why the 3 of us retired. Now that you heard these people, why do you want to come back? If you ask me, my answer is simple. Bo Jiao stood up. She tilted her handsome face casually. Come back. Let's shake up the esports competition again. Let's tell some people that daddy is still his daddy. Xiao Sanpang paused. When he looked up again, there was a storm brewing in his eyes. The girls sitting at the side were really confused. Bo Jiao walked over, a faint smile on her face. Actually, I don't care what you say, but why are you taking the blame for my fans? Someone said he likes Xiangnan, right? The person standing in front of you is Xiao Sanpang, Xiangnan, oh no, the best tank in the entire server. He was the champion for 3 consecutive years even though Supreme Alliance defeated him in the end. Xiao Sanpang thought. If you didn't add that last sentence, I would have thought that you were complimenting me. But he's still number 1 in the entire server. Bo Jiao leaned forward slowly, inching closer to one of the girl's ears. The people who supported us till now were never like you. With that, Bo Jiao glanced up towards Xiao Sanpang. Almighty fatty, are you going to reject coming back because of these people? I have always liked Luo Luo because she knew what the world was like. She still had the sorcerer's support and stood in the middle of the map. With her around, we had to consider how to break through Xiangnan. If we weren't careful, we might be controlled. She didn't retire because of these people. Bo Jiao stood up slowly. She stood against the light. She felt that her hand speed was too slow and wouldn't be able to keep up with Xiangnan. She wanted you to win. Chapter 1698. In that instant, the haze that had been in his heart for a long time dissipated. From the day Luo Luo retired, Xiao Sanpang felt a sense of helplessness. The top sorcerer of the national server had to retire in such a manner. Other than themselves, no one could understand the meaning of the golden triangle. To the audience, as long as the script was the same, they would like it. Hence, it didn't matter who left. But to him, it was Luo. Just Luo. In the future, no matter how many people came out, they wouldn't be from the Golden Triangle. Zhao Sanpang removed his apron, his gaze deep. Let me ask you a question, why didn't you get rid of those people? It shouldn't be difficult for you. Bo Jiu glanced over, her eyes bright. If I dug a pit for you to jump, would you jump? Zhao Sanpang bit his teeth. Speak clearly. I say, don't you take other people's love too seriously. Bo Jiu's handsome face carried a faint smile. Some people like you today, but they will like someone else tomorrow. You aren't clear about it yourself. You and Almighty Shao retired together because you can't keep up with the current situation. There are people more suitable than both of you. They know how to take every step, that's why such a situation occurred. Am I really going to jump in and help them? Grandpa Fatty, some people like you because they like you in the process of pursuing them. That's why they say that you can't be replaced while looking for similar people to like you. This is very normal. If you use these things to restrict yourself, how are you going to move your mouse? Zhao Sanpang's gaze dimmed. So, what can we do with some people? Sir Fatty. Bo Jiu's gaze deepened. Have you watched Animal World? Zhao Sanpang asked, that movie. Bo Jiu smiled mischievously. Manga, we haven't finished fighting the war we should be fighting. We might lose one day, but we have protected our principles. It's not that we can't do anything to some people, but we don't want to become like them. Zhao Sanpang trembled. He glanced up. I'm back. All right. Bo Jiu stretched. I finally completed my mission. It was a job to train my eloquence. Zhao Sanpang asked, do you need to train your eloquence? Why are you the one looking for me? Where's Scheming Qin? This should be his responsibility. Isn't it the same if I do it and he does it? Bo Jiu replied lazily. He's mine anyway. Zhao Sanpang chuckled. So, what about him? Bo Jiu tapped the tablet in his palm. Of course it's with someone else, afternoon, Rivertown. Kacha, kacha. The rhythmic sound of the keyboard echoed in the air. It was the same in any internet cafe. There was a faint smell of smoke. There was also the smell of instant noodles. From time to time, he would shout, dragon, dragon, dragon. They're fighting dragons. The network administrators who passed by were all shocked. Playing around again. I really have to be more wretched. Manager, here's a bottle of Coke for free. Wait a minute. The manager was a newcomer. He had only been working for half a month, but he felt that his boss was the boss. He didn't look like the boss of an internet cafe. Sitting at the bar, his smiling eyes, but in the next second, let you feel a different sense of oppression. Boss. Boss isn't back yet, call me acting boss. The manager coughed. Acting boss, there seems to be a lot of people playing hero online recently. Why is that? Why? Rao Rong's fingers stilled. Chapter 1699. Rao Rong was about to speak. Just then, there was the sound of the door opening. The manager turned to look. A person walked in. The man was wearing a dark trench coat with a pure white shirt inside, giving off a cold and noble vibe. His face was handsome, and half of it was covered by a pure black mask. Her cold and fair complexion and curves were like the finest porcelain jade. He seemed to have walked out of a manga, his legs long and slender, his body tall and straight, his eyes filled with a faint indifference. Even though the surroundings were noisy, he didn't seem to be affected at all. The manager was still thinking about how he looked like a young master from an aristocratic family. Why would he appear in an internet cafe? Just then, he saw the man walk over slowly. The manager didn't know why, but he felt an indescribable pressure. He seemed too much like the final boss in a game. "Sir." Before he could finish his sentence, his boss smiled. Then, they heard their boss's slow voice carry a hint of a smile. "Why are you back?" They knew each other. The manager thought to himself that his boss didn't seem like an internet cafe owner. The people he knew weren't ordinary either. The man removed his mask, the coolness intensifying. Who else could it be? "Are you going to chat here?" On the big screen in the internet cafe was the 3000 knife cutting that he had used in the Asian Cup, as well as his side profile. The manager looked at the screen and then at him, his eyes widening. He. Almighty. Manager, my Coke. Someone stood up. However, the network administrator felt like he was dreaming. The hand holding the iced Coke didn't seem like his own, knocking against the table leg twice. When he came back, there was no one at the bar counter. Even their boss was gone. What was going on? He really saw Almighty Chin just now. He lowered his head and started to post on WeChat. "I had a dream, I saw Almighty Chin in an internet cafe. F***ck, he's so handsome in real life." Very quickly, someone replied, "Bro, you were dreaming, that's impossible." Actually, it wasn't impossible, but the specific information about this internet cafe was only known to the fans of Supreme Alliance. After that, they said the manager had changed and no one had specially looked for it. But they weren't sure. It was Rao Rong. He was one of the 3 captains back then, the best team controller in the country. At the same time, Shao family. Everyone was beaming with joy. "Young master, wait with young madam. Madam and the rest are upstairs, they will come down after some preparation." "Okay." Shao Jing sat down with them. Luoluo's face heated up. "Young madam, it had been 3 months. When Luoluo knew she was going to meet her captain's parents, she felt a little nervous. After all, her family values were really related to knowledge. Whenever she was nervous, she would say to Shao Jing, "It's all my fault for not studying hard before." Shao Jing glanced at her, pulled her over, and lowered his head to kiss her. "They're already very happy that I'm not gay." Shao Jing was probably the only person who would use this excuse to comfort his wife. Luoluo smiled beautifully. "Does uncle and auntie suspect that you're gay?" Chapter 1700. Qin Jing couple. Luoluo couldn't help but laugh. "Both of you are very popular. I almost became a fan of both of you. Uncle and auntie have a different way of educating people. It's probably because all your attention was on Qin Mo at that time." Shao Jing glanced sideways. "I'm just studying my opponent. Is it that funny?" "A little." Luoluo always said whatever was on her mind in front of him. Her eyes were bright and her teeth were white. What else did uncle and auntie do because of this? Shao Jing's hand didn't leave Luoluo's hair. He continued to tangle with it. "You asked me indirectly how big of a place Qin Mo occupies in my heart." When Luoluo heard this, she laughed so hard that her shoulders trembled. "He does look a little gay. He should record it and send it to Joe." Shao Jing looked at the person beside him. When he got closer, he said in a low voice, "Let's test it tonight." Test? Luoluo didn't understand. Her smile was filled with confusion. Shao Jing's lips fell on her hair. "Let's test whether I'm straight or straight on you." In an instant, Luoluo felt as though she was scalded. His heart trembled slightly. His face was slightly hot. Shao Jing looked at her blushing face and smiled. "It should be fine after meeting your parents." Why was he asking her such a question? Luoluo wanted to get up. However, he grabbed her wrist. What are you going to do? Drink some water. Luoluo's eyes moved away slightly. She didn't look at that face. This was simply against the rules. He clearly knew that she had no resistance against him. Xiao Jing chuckled. Here's my teacup. Luoluo took it. She wanted to divert her thoughts by drinking tea. Xiao Jing narrowed his eyes. I don't want to ask anymore. What else did my parents say? What else did he say? As long as it wasn't a topic of conversation, everything would be fine. Xiao Jing's voice was indifferent. Although Qin Mo is handsome, he already has a girlfriend. Let me be mentally prepared. Luoluo wanted to laugh again. At this moment, a voice came from the other side. Xiao Jing, what nonsense are you saying to Luoluo? It was Mother Xiao. Knowing that her son was going to bring his girlfriend, she was overjoyed. The Xiao family was indeed engaged in scientific research. Other than medical research, there were also some things that could be used by the military. They were all in the courtyard. This time, his son returned to the main family. They were worried that he had come back because of Qin Feng. One had to know that the last time her son came back, he said that he was investigating something for Qin Brat. Luoluo's appearance was like a savior. From the moment Xiao Taiying's mother sat down, she started to say that her son was boring, and that he didn't know what romance was. He asked Luoluo to be more tolerant and even said that they were teammates. Then I would be at ease. He liked to play games. He said a lot. Luoluo knew very well that this situation happened because of a certain someone's previous topic. Mrs. Xiao had thought about letting her son marry someone from the system in the future. The professors had told her that the girls who did experiments with Xiao Jing were all very good. He was just shocked by his son's reaction. Every time he said, "Not interested." No one was interested in telling him. Apart from that brat from the Qin clan, who could make him say a few more words. Nothing else would work. Mrs. Xiao was really worried. Now, she looked at Luoluo's face. No wonder he didn't like the girls I introduced to him. Chapter 1701. Madam, it's a delivery. Delivery. Madame Xiao furrowed her brows. She had never called for a delivery and never bought anything online. Why would there be a delivery? Did you send it to the wrong place? Madame Xiao stood up. The delivery man said from the door, Mr. Qin asked me to send it here. I am from a company that runs errands. He has something for Mr. Xiao Jing. Qin. Madame Xiao looked towards her son. Why did Qin appear again? Was Luoluo his son too? Xiao Jing knew what his mother was thinking. Luoluo and I aren't fake. I won't use her as a shield. In the future, don't read too many stories. After Madame Xiao's thoughts were exposed, she coughed softly. Child, when did I ever think that way? Luoluo couldn't help but laugh. You and Qin Mo are too close. Auntie can't be blamed for thinking too much. Right? Madame Xiao finally found someone to speak up for her. Xiao Jing glanced down. When did I say that you and Z are even closer? Luoluo, Xiao Jing stood up and walked to the door. He took the item from the delivery man's hands. He opened the first layer of packaging. There was another layer of packaging. He touched it through the bag. Xiao Jing didn't know what was inside. So, he set his eyes on the tablet-like thing first. What is it? Luoluo walked over. Xiao Jing let her look at the tablet in his palm. His slender fingers swiped across the screen and he clicked on it. Luoluo's gaze was clearly shocked. She tilted her face and instinctively wanted to capture Xiao Jing's expression. The emotions in her heart seemed to be tumbling out. However, Xiao Jing pressed the pause button. His deep eyes fell on her face. Luo Luo urged him. Why don't you finish reading? Xiao Jing's voice was calm. I have retired. There's nothing to see. Luo Luo was still looking at him. She smiled. You are worried that I will feel sad if I am not on the list. That's why you stopped reading. Xiao Jing's hand, which was about to put the tablet back, paused. His gaze deepened. It's meaningless if we're not together. Luo Luo looked at him with flames in her eyes. How is it meaningless? Even if I don't participate as a member of the team, I can still be your fan. At the very least, I can apply for an assistant position. After all, I have a gaming foundation. I understand. Xiao Jing reached out and pulled her over, holding her in his arms. Okay, I'll go back. Luo Luo smiled. Her smile was like a raging fire. Her eyebrows and eyes were like a painting. It was just like when she first appeared in front of everyone. Some people also said that she looked the most like the characters in the game. When she wielded a magic staff or carried a sniper cannon in the game, there was no one who wouldn't be intimidated by her powerful aura. Applying for an assistant position. Xiao Jing lowered his eyes. You will definitely be on the list. Before Luo Luo could speak, Xiao Jing didn't touch the tablet again. Instead, he followed the instructions given by the higher-ups. He picked up the package next to him. He reached out and tore it. The thing slid down from the inside. This is a battle uniform. Luo Luo picked it up. Xiao Jing's eyes lit up. That's right, it's a battle uniform. Moreover, there are 2 sets. 2 sets, which meant. Luo Luo looked up. Xiao Jing lifted up his black and red uniform, and 2 huge words appeared in front of him. Chapter 1702. Hua, Xia. Flamboyant and flamboyant. Luo Luo could see the fire burning in Xiao Jing's eyes. No man wouldn't hope that his hard work and struggle could be used to win glory for the country. And this day had finally come. It was being reported online and on television. Currently, the number of gamers in China had reached 500 million. This meant that China's esports was starting to be known. But just being known wasn't enough. Many people thought that it was something that only internet addicts would do. No one would advocate being addicted to games. But if it was esports, there was no harm in giving it a try. Perhaps no one knew. In 2005, there was a champion player who wore the Chinese flag and won limitless glory. The host's voice came slowly, as though he was telling a story. Ever since that time, it seemed as though victory had never belonged to China. I believe that this year will be different. This was what the shoutcaster said as he looked at the screen. At the same time. Lin Corporation Building. A university classroom. A remote town in Tibet. An amusement park for rich kids. In the villa of the Feng family. And in the fields where the crops were being harvested. Lin Feng, Yunhu, Yin Wuyao, Coco, Feng Shang, Lin Qintao. All of them received a small tablet at the same time. He opened the tablet and there was only one sentence on it. 3 days ago, Qin Mo was summoned back to China. At first, he thought that he had to do some mission. Unexpectedly, his father didn't call him because of the military. Instead, he brought him ahead of him. Qin Mo knew that person. He glanced sideways and only gave him 3 words. I won't rebuild. Before the person could finish his words, he was stopped. After making a phone call, he said, I won't rebuild. Mr. Qin Mo, are you willing to come back and form a Chinese team? You can lead our country's esports players and represent China. Qin Mo paused. Me? Who will choose the players? Me. This. The person went out to make another phone call. After returning, he said, as long as the players are 18 years old, Mr. Chin Mo can choose. We have a list here. Chin Mo stood up. I'm not interested in the list you provided. In the esports battlefield, cooperation and winning are the most important. What do you think? Of course. But that person still wanted to recommend some fresh blood. These two are not bad. Do you want to take a look, Mr. Chin? Chin Mo raised his eyebrows and scanned the paper in his hand. One of the spade tea and flawless luo luo were the top choices. He lifted his eyes and looked at the man. His aura was so strong that no one dared to look him in the eye. This is the name list you provided. That person replied, these newcomers are performing well and are very popular. Mr. Chin, I know you have feelings for some people and would definitely want to choose people you are familiar with to participate in the competition. However, this competition is different. I hope you can look at the bigger picture. Are you sure that's what the committee thinks? Chin Mo's voice softened. Coming to me means that they approve of my choice. That person chuckled. Of course, apart from the competition, it's also important to support newcomers, right? Sure. Chin Mo glanced sideways. Let the two of them team up and defeat Bei. That person paused. Isn't it a little difficult? Aren't you going to support a newcomer? Chin Mo's gaze deepened. Perhaps I can guide him personally. Chapter 1703. Chin Mo glanced over. The curve of his chin was still beautiful. What is this? That person smiled. These two people are inexperienced but they have potential. When they get used to it, we will let them fight with Mr. Chin Mo, sure. Chin Mo stuffed a hand into his trouser pocket and walked over. Tell the committee that we can talk about the competition when you are fired. That person's face stiffened. Mr. Chin Mo, are you determined to suppress the newcomers? Suppress. Chin Mo glanced down and suddenly laughed. There was a layer of coldness in his eyes. I hate people like you who tamper with things but still act righteously. That person changed his words quickly. Mr. Chin Mo, indeed, if my suggestion doesn't agree with you, you can choose not to accept it, but you don't have to say that. After all, I like you guys very much. Chin Mo stuffed a hand into his pocket and said faintly, oh. If you like me, then it's easy. Get lost and I will be back. That person immediately flicked his sleeves and left. He made a phone call as he walked, saying that Chin Mo wasn't willing to fight. He was too arrogant and he couldn't persuade him. Chin Mo's expression didn't change as he listened. After a few minutes, that person was dragged back. Chin Mo adjusted his sleeves and looked at him. His gaze was faint but cold. That person wanted to jump up. Chin Mo walked in front of him, holding his phone in his right hand. He made a call in front of that person. That person's face turned pale when he saw the number he dialed. Mr. Chin Mo, hello. Chin Mo didn't bother with him, his voice calm. Mr. Zhang, it's me. I heard from Mr. Yang that you aren't willing to fight. Is there something you haven't resolved? The voice was still regretful. Chin Mo's gaze landed on that person's forehead, watching his unconscious uneasiness. His emotions didn't change. Mr. Yang introduced two newcomers to me. After listening to them, I decided to find them to fight first. According to Mr. Yang, the old people are no longer able to make it and it's time to add in new blood. Otherwise, the old people will be attacking the newcomers. Once Mr. Zhang heard this, he knew that his subordinates had messed things up. Why did they look for Chin Mo? Did Mr. Yang understand? Other than him, no one else could carry the banner of China's esports. Qin Mo was the only one who could bring them back. Why are you stuffing people in at this critical juncture? President Zhang did know what was going on. It was normal for the clubs and teams to want to surpass Supreme Alliance. It was impossible to remain the same. But this kind of thing could be done normally. This was a huge competition. Did Director Yang not know? President Zhang took a deep breath and said, "When he comes back, I will get him to hand in his resignation." Of course I have to hand in my resignation. Qin Mo's voice didn't change. But I thought about it. Miss Yang is right about one thing. This is an international competition. You can't just choose someone based on seniority. If you want to join, you have to show your capabilities. Since Miss Yang thinks that we seniors are suppressing the newcomers, I'm afraid some of their fans are the same. When Head Yang heard this, he didn't understand. Was he speaking up for him? President Zhang frowned. What do you want to do? Chapter 1704. That Director Yang's expression changed instantly. He wanted to reject. No matter what people said, these two people had their own characteristics. They were the future of esports and had nothing to do with Spade Z and Luo Luo. They just had similar names and used the same trick. But Director Yang knew that those who watched their competition knew that Spade Z and Luo Luo were in it. Since so many people liked Spade Z, there must be something good about her. On the other hand, Luo Luo had a topic to talk about. He had chosen these two people because they were smart and had found each other's characteristics. Many people thought that it wasn't smart for them to say, "We don't know Spade Z and Luo Luo. Spade Z and Luo Luo's fans, please leave." But in reality, it was smart. It didn't matter if Spade Z and Luo Luo's fans went or not. Once these words were said, they would be bound. They would be bound to Spade Z and Luo Luo so naturally, they would be popular. Moreover, everyone would think that Spade Z and Luo Luo's fans were jumping around. To put it bluntly, it was just one sentence. They really hoped that Spade Z's fans would cause trouble. Unfortunately, Spade Z's fans were silent and didn't cause trouble. If that was the case, there would be more than this number of fans. If Qin Mo used his main account to fight with these two people, Director Yang would definitely not reject him. Anyway, even if he lost, the topic would be brought up. Their popularity would only increase and not decrease. But now, Qin Mo wanted to use his secondary account to fight with them during their live stream. This was really a slap in the face. Director Yang panicked. He didn't care that the phone was in Qin Mo's hands and shouted, "President, this is too much of a blow to the newbies' enthusiasm. It isn't a good idea." Qin Mo glanced over calmly. His voice was still emotionless. "So, President Zhang, what do you plan to do?" President Zhang took a deep breath. "I understand. I will send someone else over. Gather everyone. 3 days later, they will be live streaming and you will go and fight." When Director Yang heard this, he was instantly dispirited. How was he going to develop in the future? Guild Master Zhang also rubbed his head. Just when did such a problem appear down there? He roughly knew what Director Yang was thinking. It was just that he had taken the wrong path and chosen the wrong place. They were going to represent the country in the competition. President Zhang thought that by saying this, they would calm down. But Qin Mo was Qin Mo. As smart as he was, he had long seen through these things. He looked up and said, "Shall I gather everyone?" President Zhang paused. "No, you make a name list. I'll get them to invite them back." "President, you know it, but Dean Yang doesn't seem to understand something. Regardless of whether it's me or the others, this battle is for China. If it was just for you guys, no one would have come back." For the first time, guild leader Zhang tasted the feeling of not being able to speak. All sorts of feelings welled up in his heart. Qi Nemo glanced at Mr. Yang, his expression unchanged. You should be glad that we have China as an excuse this time. Otherwise, I would have chased someone like you out. Mr. Yang only felt angry. However, President Zhang, who was on the other end of the phone, felt a chill run down his spine when he heard the commotion on the other end. He knew that Qi Nemo wasn't just talking to Mr. Yang, but to him as well. For the country, they would definitely go to war. But don't even think about doing anything here. Chapter 1705. Now, 3 days had passed. Everyone had received their own summons. Qi Nemo brought Rao Rong out of the internet cafe. They didn't go anywhere. After boarding the car, Qi Nemo tossed Rao Rong a uniform. Follow me to a game. Rao Rong arched a brow. You? Personally. Qi Nemo replied faintly, MH, Rao Rong was surprised. Who would make you fight personally? Flies. Qi Nemo glanced over. Clean them up before everyone comes back. Rao Rong. He was wrong. He had thought this person would be kinder after 3 months of absence. It seemed like his poisonous tongue couldn't be changed. The journey from the internet cafe to the building took less than half an hour. Rao Rong glanced up. This will be our future base. It seems a little serious. Can we order instant noodles in the future? Yes. Qi Nemo was used to these people's strange requests. Feng Yi had moved into the building the day before. Many things had been arranged. Eating instant noodles wouldn't be difficult. Rao Rong knew that this competition would be different from the previous ones. They would receive comprehensive attention. But the facilities in the base surprised Rao Rong. There's even a gym. When the competition is intense, you will need to maintain your stamina. If you go overseas, you will need to adjust to the time difference. Qi Nemo glanced over. In the future, your fitness and resistance will be monitored. Rao Rong chuckled lightly. Not bad. Qi Nemo glanced at him. He didn't mention the other conditions. They weren't officially registered yet. The details would be announced once everything was stabilized. To prevent them from escaping. It's about time. Qi Nemo stuffed a hand into his pocket, glancing at the watch on his wrist. Let's go to the training room. Was he going to start playing? Rao Rong replied, all right, I'll try out the new keyboard. The new base was huge. It was actually in the building. Both the training room and the gym were huge and the planning was reasonable. After training, they could go to the gym next door. While working out, they could also see the situation in the training room. There were a total of 12 computers. They were placed there generously. There was a distance between each one, but it wasn't too far. The chairs had been specially adjusted by someone. It was so that the neck wouldn't be too stiff even if they sat for 24 hours. Rao Rong felt it the moment he sat down. It's comfortable. Qi Nemo switched on a computer, removed his headphones, and placed them on his black hair. The sound produced by the mechanical keyboard was different from that of an ordinary keyboard. After Rao Rong was done, he turned towards Qi Nemo. Qi Nemo glanced at the game page. Give me an alternate account. He did have quite a few Smurfs on hand. Rao Rong casually mentioned one. After Qi Nemo logged in, he glanced at the message on his phone. Then, he opened a live streaming app. The more Rao Rong watched, the more curious he got. When did you start following the trend and watching live streams? I didn't. Qi Nemo's gaze landed on the screen. Understand it now. Rao Rong was about to continue when he saw an ID appear on the live stream screen. Spade T. Ever since the Supreme Alliance disbanded. Rao Rong didn't watch the video again. Most of the customers were boys. Boys look at technique. Only by entering the server's ranking would he attract their attention. For example, at that time, Spade Z, the one who would get the first kill the moment she made a move. Every day, everyone in Zone C would see that person's ID. It was growing at an unbelievable speed. Be it the hidden boss or the first kill of an instance. Chapter 1706. In the game, it was normal to have the same ID. You and I are like, I and you are like, even the same is nothing. Some fans would even imitate their idols to express their love. When he used to play games, he had met someone called Rao Rong. These were all very common. Therefore, for the sake of a game ID, Chin Mo would never participate in this competition. Rao Rong glanced over. Just as he was about to continue looking, he caught another ID, Flawless Luo Luo. The word flawless was deliberately weakened, as though it didn't exist. Of course, this was not the main point. The key was still the fighting style of those two. For example, Spade T had chosen Spade Z's best assassin back then. Flawless Luo Luo chose Luo Luo's most proficient sorcerer. The girl called Spade T. She even dyed her hair silver. Even if she didn't have a mole, she was going to light one for herself. He glanced up at the camera, his voice calm. Everyone should know how noisy I've been. Spade fans, stop bothering me. If you don't want to watch me play, scram. Rao Rong tilted his head towards Chin Mo. These things were nothing in his eyes. Chin Mo was probably the same. With only this level of strength, it was only natural that he wouldn't participate in a competition. What had happened in the past that made him make this decision? Before he could finish his thought, in the live stream room, a wave of comments popped up. God T is so handsome, we are Spade fans, we aren't here to mess around. Just like the one above, I like Spade Z and Almighty T, in my heart, Supreme Alliance and Spade Z are irreplaceable, but that doesn't affect my support for Almighty T, go, God T. Rao Rong couldn't help smiling, his lips lifting slightly. Little Spades fan. Seal yourself. Chin Mo threw 2 words over. Rao Rong chuckled lightly. I'm afraid there really are people who like Little Spade, but it's rather amusing to support him while saying he's irreplaceable. It's normal. Chin Mo logged in slowly. Have you ever taken these like seriously? Rao Rong lowered his gaze. I'm still a little disappointed. I thought your heart was completely black at that time. Rao Rong knew exactly when it happened. Only Rao Rong knew how he had managed to climb back up. How many times had he felt that it was okay to live in the dark? In any case, this world had always been like this. What is human nature? When you shine, tufted maintenance. When you are defeated, trample at will. Those who say they like you don't know where your despair is. You can't express everything inside you. Because no one understood the saying, with dragon spring on the tongue, killing without spilling blood. Perhaps their love for him was the last straw that crushed his original intentions. The people who defeated us were never our enemies. It's that we've compromised and become like each other. Fortunately, he managed to walk out. Don't be trapped in your heart, don't fear the future. Because Rao Rong understood. There are human nature in this world that you can't explain. Even if it's just you sitting here. It made people remember why you would give your all to fight a match. Because they were fighting side by side. Because one day, they wanted to fight for the country. Because even though you've been drinking ice for 10 years, you aren't the only one whose blood hasn't cooled. There are also people sitting beside you who have walked out of the darkness and dared to move their mouse again. Perhaps, they were the only ones who came out. But Rao Rong believed that there were many newbies who stayed up late to train, harboring the same feelings as them. They weren't faith and they weren't exceptions. The world was big and everyone had their own dreams of being a hero. Chapter 1707. Katha. The enter key rang. Chin Mo entered the game. He followed the area announced on the live stream and entered the arena. It was a 5v5 match. When he clicked in, he was at flawless Luo and Spade T's side. But the next second, he clicked on the mouse and went to the opponent's position. This is a smurf and my level isn't high. Can you match me? Rao Rong asked this question for a reason. In Hero, only players of the same level could participate in such a special competition. Unless it was a solo PK, they wouldn't care about such things. Once it was related to leveling up, they would pay attention to the balance of the players and their abilities. They couldn't let a newbie be matched with an expert right from the start. There wouldn't be any gaming experience. However, since these two people were said to be so powerful, they should have at least reached a certain level. How could they be matched with someone of a lower level? Unless they were of a similar level. As expected, Rao Rong took a closer look at their levels and wanted to laugh. No wonder their winning rate is so high. At this level, Little Spade can easily kill 5. Not necessarily, Chin Mo replied faintly. Rao Rong arched a brow. Not necessarily. If the teammate is an actor, he might not be able to kill 5. Chin Mo ignored the teammate who kept asking him to change his hero. This hero could only be used against Spade T. He pressed the confirm button. Rao Rong fell silent, glancing up at the ceiling. Even the results are acted out. But at this level, there isn't a need to act. It can only be explained from the side. Chin Mo paused. Rao Rong replied, MMH. Noob. It was a casual word. Rao Rong, alright, but why can't anyone tell that there are actors? Chin Mo thought about it, waiting to enter the game since there wasn't much to do. They are probably like you, they didn't expect that such a level of competition would require actors. Also, they really can't tell. After all, they are Joe's fans, how would they know such basic techniques? Rao Rong coughed, choking. Aren't you being sarcastic? Of course. Chin Mo screwed the bottle cap back on. If they are her fans, how would they not know techniques? Rao Rong thought to himself, a man with a wife is scary. Chin Mo was even scarier when he had a wife. The people in the live broadcast room did not expect what would happen next. Just like before, Spade T went to the opposite wilderness the moment the game started. Together with flawless Luo, they came aggressively. The bullet screen was filled with, so handsome, my Spade T is so handsome. Before entering the competition, Chin Mo turned off the live stream. Rao Rong found it interesting. He took his phone and did a search. When he entered, this was the scene he saw. Wasn't he learning from Little Spade? Even Little Spade's ability to turn wild was the same. However, this was understandable. Carnivorous junglers like to take the initiative to attack. Many contestants also had this characteristic. It was also common for players to have a mana counter at the start of the game. It was probably because of Spade T's performance. As she walked, she typed, "Your wilderness is my home." Rao Rong wanted to laugh. Which capable assassin would show off his abilities like this? Yes, except for Little Spade. She would. That was because of her nature, dark to the core, unrestrained, flamboyant and hateful. Chapter 1708. The live stream was flooded with comments. So handsome. Rao Rong was in a daze for a few seconds. Bragging was considered handsome. Zhao Sanpang was definitely the most handsome. Because he often bragged. Little Spade is narcissistic. Rao Rong asked. Chin Mo replied as he started to move the mouse. She often praises herself for being handsome without batting an eyelid. No wonder. Rao Rong touched his chin. She is indeed studious. Chin Mo laughed softly. He seemed to have thought of something. Anyway, his expression was slightly different. Rao Rong ate a mouthful of dog food silently. He saw that Chin Mo was already hiding in the bushes in the wilderness. Rao Rong wanted to say that this was really scheming, too scheming. No wonder Zhao Sanpang called him scheming Chin. He already knew what the opponent was going to do, which was why he was hiding in the bushes. It was obvious that the actor arranged here wasn't a high-level actor. He only wanted to send himself over. He didn't even know what his own assassin was doing. Up until now, Spade T and Flawless Luoluo had used this method to gain many points. After all, they were both professional players. It wasn't a problem for them to play such a low-end game. They arranged for one of them to be an actor on the other side because they wanted to play more elegantly. One had to know that people liked them now because they were handsome. They couldn't lose this charm. Now, let's return a blue buff to the opponent, Spade T said as she attacked. Flawless Luoluo was smiling too. It seemed like this game was extremely easy for them. But they hadn't expected something. A human figure would suddenly emerge from the bushes. A direct punishment. The blue buff they had used for so long was wasted. Spade T was about to explode. F***CK. That's F***King scheming. That's right, it's too scheming. A bunch of comments echoed. But there were also gamers who felt that it was normal. Wasn't it normal for the blue buff to be missed? Why did this person explode? She even cursed. Why did she feel? She couldn't feel it clearly. Everyone watching the live stream froze. That was because the figure in the bushes didn't retreat after taking back the blue buff. A backhand hit Spade T's body. Spade T seemed to be infuriated as she brought the sorcerer to retaliate. However, for some unknown reason, after the move was sent out, it actually missed. And where was he? Where is he? Unlike the audience, Spade T didn't have a full view. As a result, they couldn't see how that person had dodged two of their skills. With a flick of his spear, he jumped into an excellent position. Spade T asked, "Where is he?" He was lifted into the air by the silver-white spear. When the silver sparks fell, Spade T was stunned. Most importantly, Flawless Luoluo used her skill. However, it did not freeze the figure at all. That person seemed to know how she was going to fight. He was always one step ahead to avoid their skills. On the screen, the figure pulled back and forth at an extremely fast speed. It was so dazzling that Spade T didn't even have a chance to react. Even the people watching the live broadcast were shocked by that kind of positioning and hand speed. No bullet screen popped up for a long time. It would only take 3 to 5 seconds. Chapter 1709. First Blood. First Kill. The first drop of blood. Silver sparks fell. The shadow of the long spear was imprinted on the ground. The entire live stream was silent. Did the T die? She died in less than 2 minutes after the start of the game. Spade T's hand paused for a moment. In the next second, she started speaking. "Luoluo, what's wrong with you? Shouldn't you have frozen him just now?" This person usually called Flawless Luoluo but always called her Luoluo. Flawless Luoluo was also stunned. She didn't expect the T to die. When she regained her senses, she stuck out her tongue and said, "Sorry, I used the wrong skill just now. I was just being naughty." This kind of explanation could be considered passable. The bullet screen kept saying, "Next time, you can't be naughty, Almighty T is dead," etc. But there were only a few such bullet screen comments. Then, another sound effect was heard. Double kill. Double kill. They must have heard wrongly. Double kill. It was actually a double kill. Everyone's eyes started to shake. But the figure on the screen seemed to naturally sweep past the bushes at the side. As he flipped over the wall, he had already defeated a wild monster in the river. And his HP, which was almost gone just now, actually rose back up. The people who originally came to watch the battle were here to see Spade T. When they saw this scene, they couldn't help but click on the person's corner of their vision. This meant that wherever he went, they would see it. Spade T and Flawless Luoluo's mentality was a little broken. Flawless Luoluo never thought that she would die as well. Spade T immediately said, "Luoluo, are you stuck there again?" "Yes, yes, yes, I'm stuck again." After Flawless Luoluo said this sentence, Spade T said, "I think so too. But you can't say you're stuck after being killed once." When it was the second time, people watched the game from the other party's perspective. Once again, Spade T and Flawless Luoluo were killed by the silver-white figure. The livestream room was silent. What's the situation? Why did T die again? It doesn't look like a card. I don't think it looks like a card either. It's because he's too fast. Did anyone see how he came out? I've been watching for a long time, but I still don't know where he came from. Look at the assassin he's playing. He can teleport 3 times and go through walls. It's normal for him to suddenly appear. At this moment, Spade T's expression had changed. He was really flustered and exasperated. At this time, it was impossible to talk about teamwork. After all, this was a low-end game. If one did not have the ability to carry 4 people at once, they would have to think of a way to deal with such a person. He must be using a Smurf account. But even if he's a Smurf, his tank shouldn't be so bad. Smurf. Those who are here purely to see the game's skills need to explain why they are still using alternate accounts. Isn't this a high-end game? T doesn't like high-end games. It's already tough enough to train. Now, we're just playing low-end games. As soon as these words were spoken, another sound effect appeared on the screen. 3 times. He had already been double-killed 3 times. How could Spade T bear it? She sent a signal to gather. He didn't even bother with the tower anymore. Instead, he led the other 4 players behind him and dashed towards the figure in the jungle. This time, the other party was definitely going to die. This was the thought that everyone had at this moment. 1 against 5, and his teammates had no intention of coming to support him. Chapter 17:10. At this point in the live stream, someone started saying, "What's going on with the top lane over there? Why isn't he helping? Is it an illusion? I feel like he's an actor. Didn't someone say that this is a low-end game? There are actors in a low-end game." As people became more and more confused. In the game, there was a round of encirclement. Just when everyone thought that the figure was going to die, he seemed to have predicted the opponent's position. He raised his long spear and didn't escape. Instead, he held the long spear and jumped to the back of those people. The silver-white long spear landed on the ground. His long sleeves fluttered. The dragon sword came out and lifted 2 people at the back. The ADC and support couldn't react at all. Spade T, who was charging at the front, didn't expect him to fight like this. She turned around to fight again. The ADC was already killed by the figure. Everyone could see that the silhouette on the screen was like moving clouds and flowing water, a critical hit, and an instant kill. He took one out of the 5 people. After killing that person, he could quickly flee, and then turn around to counterattack. The long spear was sharp and caught him off guard. Even if he didn't go on stage, the people watching the live stream could understand what it felt like. Once he entered the scene, his head was taken. Moreover, there were 5 of them at the beginning. 5 of them couldn't stop him. Not only that, people could clearly see 1 kill, double kill, 3 kills. Just like that, in a situation that no one expected. That figure was like the wind that no one could stop. Prediction, positioning, and the awareness of a king. It wasn't that he hadn't been hit before. But every time he was hit, he could kill 1 person. Flawless Luo was among them. It was too fast. So fast that when Spade T saw that the figure had less than a third of his HP left, she thought that her chance had come. First, she let the tank rush over and give him a critical hit. The reason why he raised his spear again was because he wanted to kill this person once and teach him a lesson. It didn't make sense. They used the same hero. The opponent was so much stronger than her. Even if he had good skills. Now he was almost at critical HP. As long as she caught up, she could take his head. Spade T's eyes were bloodshot. He didn't care that the defense towers on this side were almost destroyed. Especially since the bottom lane had been pushed to the high ground. The only thing left in his eyes was to kill someone to avenge his humiliation. The people watching the live stream also understood what T was trying to do. For some reason, they were watching this game. He actually hoped that the silver-white figure would not be caught. But no one expected it. He knew that the other party was chasing after him. That person was still wielding his spear and casting a red buff. Hurry up and go. Killing 3 people is enough. That state just now, a 1v5, and he even killed 3 of them. That's really cool. But in the next second, everyone finally understood why he was using the red buff. He didn't do it for the redhead. It was for the sake of sucking blood. At this moment, Spade T flipped up. He entered the red buff area. Originally, he wanted to attack that person. However, the figure only moved his body sideways, and with that subtle movement, he was able to move his body. Spade T's big move didn't hit him at all. Instead, it hit the red buff. This was not the end. He thought that the person was going to leave. Who knew that he would take advantage of this moment to use a jungler's skill and take the red buff directly in his hands? Chapter 17:11. F***CK. Is he asking Spade T to help him with the red buff? Asking the opponent to help him with the red buff, that's a trick. Have you guys seen his results? He hasn't played many rounds. I have. He hasn't played many rounds and he's always the MVP with 0 deaths. I'm so envious. But he has always been a team control player. Why is he playing as an assassin this time? As a team control player, I feel that my previous team control games were all for nothing. Stop talking, look. Look at what? This question only lasted for a moment. On the screen, the silver light fell. After the figure took the red buff, he drew close with his long spear and lifted the opponent into the air. Like a silver-white dragon, it turned around and struck back. It was obvious that Spade T was in a daze, even her expression was blank. She didn't seem to expect herself to be killed. Because she wasn't convinced, Spade T threatened, "You cheater, I'm going to complain about you." How is that possible? He only has so little HP and I haven't killed him for so long, how is that possible? Just as Spade T was shouting, another sound effect played in his ears. Pentakill. Pentakill. He actually got a pentakill. Even the tank was killed by him. The anger in Spade T's mouth seemed to freeze in an instant. The bottom lane had already reached the center of the city. The silver figure with the long spear didn't move at this moment. He just stood there, his wide sleeves fluttering. A line of words appeared on the screen. How did you guys become professional players? This sentence was thousands of times more lethal than saying that their names were the same. The people watching the live stream came to a realization. Before this, they didn't think much of it. But this time, Spade T was stunned by her opponent's performance. They liked this person because he gave them a handsome feeling. Now that they looked at him, the glow seemed to have faded. Some people felt that he looked like Z was gone and a new one appeared. Just enough for them to continue chasing. Now, they didn't know why. They didn't like him anymore. They didn't like him anymore. Think about it carefully. Back when Spade Z was playing, she could always enter the wilderness alone, clear the red and blue beasts before returning. Regardless of the situation, she could always go against the wind. When he was tired, he would rebuke others, and there were even times when he would speak ruthlessly. His eyes were filled with ambition. But she has never said bad words. But this T, what they saw was this T. All of them were taken. There were also some who came to see his face. However, he admired this character of his. What right do you have to question our God T's ability as a professional player? But none of that was important. More importantly, those who actually played and watched the competition knew that noobs were noobs. Did they need noobs to raise pigs in esports? After the match, Chin Mo removed his black headphones. Spade T wanted to throw the blame at Spade Z's fans. At this moment, Sister Turtle came out. Chapter 17:12. In an instant, those IDs that had been abandoned filled the entire screen. I'm in Jiang City, waiting for you to come back. I'm in City, waiting for you to come back. I'm in Border City, waiting for you to come back. I'm in, it was just a short minute. Thousands of replies, one after another, increasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Some people said that this was a true Spade fan. Those who were active, looking for the same image. They just liked Z's outer shell and handsomeness. Hence, just because there was a slight resemblance, they felt that the other party was the person in their heart. This was understandable, after all, making oneself happy was the most important, regardless of who the other party liked. But true Spade fans would only appear at such times. Some of them were students, some were office workers, and some were newbies who had just entered society. They stopped abruptly. Some emotions that had never been numbed surged out from their eyes. That group of people had used one competition after another to tell everyone what it meant to survive in adversity, to be strong against the strong. When you grow up, you will understand that nothing in this world is easy. But you have to believe that we humans have always been fireflies on the ground, we can make a comeback and pluck the stars. If you are really tired, then ask, can the dream in your heart be awakened again with this group of people? When the news came out, Spade T, who had just been slapped in the face, didn't believe it at all. But this didn't affect the continued popularity. Spade T's plan was to stick to the other party. But not everyone would be like those who like to be in a shell. Spade T still didn't understand. True Spade fans wouldn't care about her at all. Hence, this time, there wasn't any effect. Those people were only waiting for one thing. That was it true? That group of people was coming back. Was it true? At this moment, in the city center of Jiang City, in a tall building, one after another, figures strolled in. Swoosh! The door of the base opened. Light shone in. Rao Rong was still sitting in front of the computer, his black hair covered with headphones, his hand by the side. Qin Mo was wearing a black and red uniform, standing in the middle with his back facing the back. The two words, China, behind him, with flames, fluttering in the wind. It was as though one could hear the beating of the heart. After hearing the sound of the door, he turned his head. Wherever his gaze landed, Bo Jiu, Xiao Jing, Lin Feng, Yunhu, Luo Luo, Feng Shang, Coco, Lin Chintao, Yin Wuyao, Zhao Sanpang. These people were still the same as they were in his memory. They were youths in the prime of their youth. They were all wearing the same uniform. On the cuffs, there was a national emblem. They stood in a straight line in front of the door, their sleeves fluttering in the wind, a faint smile on their faces. They're all here. Qin Mo opened his mouth, his voice calm as though he was exchanging pleasantries with an old friend. Let's begin. It was just a short sentence, but it seemed to be able to shake something. The aura he exuded made the assistant standing behind him freeze on the spot. However, it was not that there was no reaction. After all, the higher-ups had asked him to take care of these esports players. But that scene was too cool. He was so handsome that the assistant couldn't help but raise his hand. With a click, the photo was formed. Qin Mo stood at the front. Everyone behind him had a gleam in their eyes. The photo was posted to the official account. There was only one sentence accompanying the picture. Chapter 17:13. In many people's hearts. They were really a group of gods. They gathered the best esports players in China and formed a Chinese team. Just looking at the photo and name list would make people want to know about the month before the start of the World League. How would they live? Everyone must be handsome. Zhao Sanpang did think he was handsome. But... Scheming Qin, are you serious? You want us to wake up at 8:30? Zhao Sanpang looked at the timetable in front of him, feeling as though he had entered a thief's nest. Qin Mo's voice was calm. For the sake of everyone's health, we will wake up at this time in the future. He, you must be joking. Zhao Sanpang turned towards the person beside him. Ask them, how many of them can wake up? Bo Jiu raised her hand lazily, smiling devilishly. I can't wake up. Zhao Sanpang shouted, look. Qin Mo glanced over. Bo Jiu had a serious expression. Think about it, if someone can guide me every day, I can still wake up. After all, it's never dreams that wake me up, it's beauty. Zhao Sanpang's mouth twitched. He shouldn't have relied on little Spade to rebel. How could she say something like that? Esports doesn't wake up early. Yin Wuyao indicated that this matter had to be discussed. Coco let out a yawn to express his thoughts. Qin Mo glanced up. At the latest 9 a.m., I want to see you in the living room. You have already washed up and are having breakfast. I've been on a diet recently and won't eat breakfast. I should be able to wake up later. Zhao Sanpang was trying his best to sleep a little longer. Qin Mo sat there, nonchalant. I heard you don't like bitter gourd, is that right, almighty fatty? No one likes bitter gourd, right? Zhao Sanpang blinked. Why? Scheming Qin, are you trying to change our meals? At this moment, Lin Feng and Yun, who were exceptionally quiet. They didn't speak. They quietly watched as the world's most handsome fatty jumped into the pit. Actually, Lin Feng had wanted to speak at the start. He wanted to talk about fitness. Was it true that he had to do 40 push-ups every night? Just as he was about to speak, Yunhu grabbed his wrist. Yunhu grabbed his wrist and arched a brow. He wanted him to observe first. Think about it before bringing up your ideas to the captain. Xiao Sanpang said fearlessly. He even admitted that he didn't like bitter gourds. Did Xiao Sanpang not know? Don't expose your weakness in front of the captain. Because he would definitely make good use of the captain, and then, before Lin Feng could even finish his thought, it's fine if you don't want to wake up early. From tomorrow onwards, I will get Bei to prepare 3 cups of bitter gourd juice for everyone. Those who haven't woken up by 9 a.m. can just drink it. 3 cups of bitter melon juice. Xiao Sanpang's expression changed. This must be a joke. 10 days of closed-door training, starting at 9:30 a.m., training at 12 o'clock p.m. During the afternoon break, it's fine if you don't want to run. You have to drink 3 glasses of bitter gourd juice and do push-ups at night. Qi Nemo glanced at the people opposite him. Since we are representing China, we have to look good, don't you think so? They said it was a den of thieves. Xiao Sanpang and Lin Feng looked at each other. Chapter 17:14. Qi Nemo sat there calmly. His noble aura didn't diminish in the slightest. It was as though he had seen through them. He said casually, I have already submitted your information to the committee. If you choose to leave now, you will be considered as betraying your country. Betraying your country. Xiao Sanpang glared at him. Scheming Qin, why didn't I know that you would use morals to pressure people? Qi Nemo was calm. Do you know now? Xiao Sanpang shook his head. Shameless, too shameless. Qi Nemo looked at him and suddenly smiled. It was a little warm. It seems like Almighty Fatty can't wait to taste the bitter melon juice. Xiao Sanpang's back stiffened. He didn't say another word. After a long time, a higher-up came to visit the members of the Chinese team and asked, You guys used to be the first and second in command of the team. What method did Qi Nemo use to allow you guys to get along peacefully? Xiao Sanpang only replied with one word. Shameless. They didn't even have a way to leave the team. Pirate ship, the biggest pirate ship. The esports players weren't used to waking up early. As for Xiao Sanpang, he had to use all his strength to get up. Bo Jiu was much smarter. She could catch up on her sleep by sitting in front of the computer. She sat there with her black headphones on, her uniform pulled to the top. Her entire face was covered, only revealing a pair of starry eyes. Her silver hair fell down. From afar, she looked very handsome. But when she got closer, she could see the youngster's head nodding. The side of the face was porcelain white, and it looked a little cool, like a cat, sleeping lightly. Qi Nemo walked over, emptied one hand, and tapped the man's forehead with his finger. Bo Jiu paused. She opened her eyes. There was still a hint of sleepiness in her eyes. It was obvious she wasn't fully awake. Subconsciously, she thought that she was still in a castle overseas. She reached out, wanting to hug his waist and carry out her daily morning teasing. Qi Nemo sensed her thoughts and a smile appeared on his lips. In order to prevent a certain someone from acting like a hooligan and forgetting where they were, Qi Nemo took a seat. He freed one hand and placed it on her side before lowering his body. Mrs. Qin, wake up. Look at where you are. Do you want to go outside and do frog jumps with Almighty Fatty, or do you want a glass of bitter melon juice? Frog jump, bitter melon juice. These 6 words seemed to have a magical nature. Bo Jiu had assumed that as someone who had graduated from high school, it would be impossible for her to come into contact with a sport like frog jumps. It was really too embarrassing to turn his hands behind his back and squat there and jump around like a frog. He didn't expect that a married person like her would have to experience this kind of life all over again. Most importantly, the frog was not jumping inside. Instead, it was to be at the plaza outside the building. It was a business district after all. A row of people were doing frog jumps, still wearing their uniforms. It was really eye-catching. In the beginning, even if it was embarrassing, it was only in front of passers-by. After that, some fans came to catch them. Every day, they would bet on who would wake up late to do frog jumps. Even people as thick-skinned as Xiao Sanpang and Bo Jiu wanted to maintain their image. The photo of Bo Jiu with a lollipop in her mouth and randomly posting frog jumps was still circulating on the internet. Chapter 17:15. However, it wasn't easy to beat a loafer. The next day, Bo Jiu was still in the group being punished. Other than her, there was Lin Feng and Zhao Sanpang. Frog jumps. What did Zhao Sanpang look like when he jumped? Besides, shameless Qin didn't allow them to wear masks. Zhao Sanpang couldn't catch his breath. He turned to Bo Jiu. Little Spade, I'm not a troublemaker. You're scheming Qin's wife, but he's still punishing you. If I were you, I would divorce him. Bo Jiu bit the lollipop. She felt a little depressed. She placed her hands behind her head and jumped again and again. Her silver hair moved along with her. He was so handsome that the girls around him kept raising their phones. Their faces were still red, and their hearts couldn't take it anymore. Their big Spade was so handsome that they wanted to take him home and raise him. However, the person supervising the punishment was Almighty Qin. He held a cup of green liquid in his hand. It was said to be the bitter gourd juice that made all the members obey him the moment they heard his name. He was like a devil. It was too difficult to snatch someone from his hands. Bo Jiu was the first to complete the frog jumps. Zhao Sanpang watched from the back. Little Spade, how are you so fast? I have experience. Bo Jiu reached out and wiped her sweat. She smiled devilishly. I was often punished in high school. These 20 frog jumps are nothing. I can do one round around the entire field. Zhao Sanpang smirked. Is that something to be proud of? Almighty fatty. After Bo Jiu was done with her punishment, she found a wooden stick. I don't like it when anyone tries to sow discord between me and Brother Mo, Zhao Sanpang cursed. How am I supposed to jump if you move the wooden stick away? This is a military marriage. If you continue to spoil it, I'll get someone to arrest you, Bo Jiu said nonchalantly. She didn't move the wooden stick in front of him. Almighty fatty is so handsome. A wooden stick is nothing. Zhao Sanpang couldn't jump over. He couldn't help but shout, scheming Qin, come over and control your family. Qin Mo walked over, his gaze landing on her. Bo Jiu said, he wants us to divorce. Qin Mo retracted his gaze, his voice calm. Continue. Zhao Sanpang was speechless. It was one thing to do frog jumps, but he had to do it like this. In the past, Bo Jiu had a habit of showing off her love. Otherwise, as a smart car, Blackie wouldn't be unable to tolerate its master. Zhao Sanpang really didn't understand her in this aspect. Everyone saw that handsome young man with a black headband on his silver hair, his fair forehead glistening with beads of sweat. He held a wooden stick and blocked Fat God again and again. He didn't forget to say, every time he punishes me, he will give me a reward, such as candy or a kiss. I think it's good to do a few frog jumps, but the bitter gourd tastes terrible. But if you can't finish, I can prepare a few more cups for you later. Zhao Sanpang was speechless. Although he had never been in a relationship before, he had seen others. Who would deliberately make a mistake just for a kiss from their boyfriend and get punished? He shouldn't have said that just now. Little Spade looked very obedient in front of Qin Mo, but in fact, she was full of evil. Bo Jiu didn't care about his thoughts. She threw the wooden stick down and went to her man to receive her reward. Chapter 17-16. Chinemo watched a certain someone who was smiling. After entering the base, he found a corner and pressed her against the wall, kissing her again and again. Bojio wrapped her arms around his waist as her breaths rose and fell. The taste was slightly sweet when it entered the tongue. It was weird. It wasn't the first time they kissed. However, that kind of numbness never weakened. Bojio smiled. She liked the look in his eyes when his breathing was unstable. That was something that could only be felt for her. It was a pity that the medicine she got from the Black Brothers didn't work on him at all. Otherwise, she would have been able to appreciate more beauty. Bojio moved closer as she thought about it. It was this action that made Chinmo's kiss deepen. It was as though he could take away all his thoughts and make his mind go blank. Only when she lost all her energy and could only rest on his body to recover did he release her. He pressed against her and said something softly in the corner. After tidying her uniform, he said, "I admire Mrs. Chin's attitude in protecting our marriage. Keep it up." Bojio's lips were still numb. She didn't pay attention to what Chinemo said. This was the problem of kissing for too long. Every touch brought with it a numbness. The two of them wouldn't be intimate in public. But there would be occasional kisses. This didn't affect their performance. On the contrary, everyone in the team used the limited time to improve themselves. Whether it was their physique, ability to withstand pressure, technical layout, or their hand speed. As a control sorcerer, Luoluo used her abilities to prove that she hadn't slowed down. Everyone had problems to overcome. Uncle Ian was thinking about how to overcome his current self. He had reached a bottleneck before. Chinemo brought over the past information and the tactical analysis of the various teams in the world. At that time, they would be considered to have entered a battle state. They understood one point clearly. Next, they were going to bring esports out of the country. Every country had sent their strongest team to face the challenge. What they could do was to train well and be more prepared. As for other things, they were a team that grew stronger the stronger they were. On the battlefield, they wouldn't just be at their current standard. Except for China. Some of the Japanese team members would also represent their countries. How could Shin and Hoshino not be among them? Only during this period of time. No one knew what was going on. There seemed to be a barrier between the captain and the vice-captain. The captain rarely spoke. Apart from playing games, he didn't say a single word. The vice-captain was the same as before, sleeping more than awake. But the captain's condition was still not right. Even though the captain had a very beautiful face, the sharpness that seeped out from her bones made many people want to persuade her, but they didn't know how. Moreover, the Japanese didn't want their captain to lead the team. If it wasn't for the vice-captain defeating them all by himself, they would definitely be unconvinced. But even so, the captain still looked cold. It seemed like he had been in this state ever since Spadesy's wedding. That was strange. Captain should be happy that Spadesy was getting married. That way, no one would be fighting with Captain for the vice-captain position. Why did Captain seem to be distancing himself from him? Chapter 17-17. In Japan, gangsters were allowed to have legal activities. Shin was the 19th generation leader. His usual hobbies, other than gaming, were racing and drinking. Moreover, almost everyone here knew about it. It was best not to offend Shin. Because he was a snake, he could spit out a red tongue. Don't think that just because he had a pretty face, he was a pretty boy. Many people didn't even know how they died because of this. Now, there was someone who didn't know his place and wanted to take him away in the nightclub. Shin drank a little too much today. He wore local clothes and with his long hair, it was hard to tell if he was a man or a woman. But after meeting his eyes, one should know that he didn't have any femininity. But even so, there were those who couldn't move when they saw a beauty. Do you want to leave with me? I still have a lot of alcohol with me. The person who said this was the beauty who was drunk and wanted to take the chance to take her away. Unexpectedly, before he could place his hand on that person's shoulder, there was a creaking sound. His wrist was forcefully broken by that person. When the pain came, there was only a scream left. Sheen laughed coldly and pushed him away. He looked down at him and spat out one word. Scram. That person's expression changed in fear. Sheen reached out and pushed his black hair to the back of his head. He glanced to the side. The bartender immediately brought a new bottle of alcohol over. He was afraid that something would happen to the master here. Why didn't his brothers come over? They must have received orders to stand around. What about young Master Hoshino? Why didn't he come? As long as young Master Hoshino came, then there would be true peace. If not, who knew how many people would have their hands broken tonight? Tell me, what's wrong with me? Sheen suddenly spoke. He wasn't like an ordinary person who couldn't speak clearly after getting drunk. His face didn't look sloppy at all. It was still handsome and sharp. But as a follower, what's wrong with the master? This was a question that was asking for death. Not answering. Sheen scoffed. After he stood up, he glanced at one of the beauties who was still dancing and raised his glass. What kind of place was this? A place to have fun. After the beauty saw this, she walked over. Sheen lifted the other party's chin and seemed to smile. He could really win over both men and women. What do you think is wrong with me? He was too handsome. He was so handsome that it was hard to breathe. How could there be such a person? His hair was clearly longer than his own, but it was like a demon that bewitched all living beings. The beauty moved closer, wanting to kiss his lips. But Sheen pushed him away. Then, he shook his finger. This won't do. Why? The beauty didn't think that a person like him would like a man. The uncle who came up to her just now was blind. Just by looking at this person's wolf-like eyes, it was clear that he would not bow down to anyone. He was the one who was fatally attractive to girls. Especially now, when he began to tug at his collar. Very hot. I can help you cool down. You must be thirsty after drinking so much. My car is just outside. Sheen listened to her words and suddenly smiled, but before he could speak, Sheen suddenly smiled. Someone was walking toward them. Chapter 17-18. It was Hoshino. He was wearing a white shirt and a sweater from late autumn. He was carrying a cat in his arms. From afar, he looked like a character that walked out of a manga. It was hard to ignore him. The bartender instantly revealed an expression as though he was saved. Sheen's eyes paused for a moment. His thin lips were a little nonchalant. I haven't drunk enough, I won't go back for now. Hoshino threw the cat into his arms. He was as refined as ever. I didn't ask you to go back. You raised your own cat, aren't you going to feed it? It won't starve to death. Sheen picked up the cat with one hand. He saw that the woman's gaze was focused on Hoshino's face. She suddenly smiled. Why? You don't want to bring me away now. You want to bring him to your car. The woman blushed as her thoughts were seen through. Sheen couldn't be bothered to look at her anymore. He swept a glance in the direction of the bodyguard. Very quickly, someone came over to clear the place. They wouldn't do anything to her. That woman didn't need to come to this place anymore. Even if the music was noisy, it didn't seem to affect their temperament. Yusishin held the cat and looked at his eyes. Then, he scoffed. Your master doesn't have time to care about you now. If you don't want to starve to death, go find food yourself. He was in a bad mood and didn't even want to care about the cat. Yet, he reeked of alcohol. Young Master Hoshino. The bartender wanted to say something but stopped. Hoshino glanced down. Go get a room. Yes. The bartender thought that his boss was indeed suitable to sleep in this state. If not, if there were any more people who weren't afraid of death that came to his door, it would be terrible. Yusishin smiled. He didn't have any objections, but he wouldn't cooperate. He sat there and picked a bottle of strong alcohol. He poured it into a goblet with one hand. Hoshino finished the glass of wine right after he poured it out. Yusishin narrowed his eyes and poured another glass. Let's go. Hoshino's voice was very calm. I'm tired from looking for you. I'll be even more tired after a few more glasses. Yusishin glanced up and suddenly laughed. No wonder that woman wanted to take you away. It's a pity that she doesn't understand that our Mr. Hoshino doesn't care about anyone other than Z. Hoshino looked at him. His face smelled of wine and the corners of his eyes were red, but he was very cold. You're here because of this. Hoshino furrowed his brows but soon relaxed. His tone was calm as he stated a fact. Other than Z, isn't there also you? Yusishin was about to spit out his snake tongue when he suddenly stopped. He did not sober up. But it did not affect his thoughts. He knew very well that Hoshino treated him like family. This was what Yusishin couldn't understand. He was the first person to know him. If it wasn't for the fact that something had happened, he wouldn't have rushed to Hoshino's side immediately. How could Z have a chance? Even until now, Hoshino was still keeping his promise with the Bo family. He was doing it willingly. Even though Z said that she wanted to remove it. He would not give up either. This was what made Yusishin feel the most helpless. But it was different now. With Chinemo by her side, Z had long cut off Hoshino's thoughts. Since that was the case, why should he be anxious? Yusishin lowered his lids and laughed. I thought you forgot what you said. No. Hoshino's temperament didn't change. Chapter 17-19. I never thought of going against the promise. Hoshino's emotions didn't change, even his voice was calm. Since you finished drinking, go to sleep. Yusishin smiled lazily, fatally handsome. My bed partner was seduced by you, how can I sleep? Don't you know? I'll feel cold if no one sleeps with me. I'll sleep with you. Hoshino bent down, picked up the cat on the ground and placed it back in his hands, his eyes were like splashing ink. Yusishin paused, turned his head and smiled. That's fine too. Even though he knew that the sleeping partner he was talking about was simply accompanying him. Yusishin didn't want to miss such contact. They hadn't slept in the same room for a long time. It wasn't considered in the base, there were so many people. When they were young, the two of them often slept in the same bed. Later on, this person became distant from him. Yusishin's gaze was calm, trying not to think about it. The room was in the deepest part of the bar. A high-class, large-scale bar like this. There would be VIP rooms for the night. But there were only 4 or 5 rooms. Usually, they were reserved for the most distinguished guests and gang members. The leader and young Master Hoshino were both there, so there were originally 2 rooms. After the bartender heard the conversation, he decisively asked someone to change to another room. After Yusishin was drunk, the fatal feeling on his body became more prominent. But he really drank a little too much. After opening the door, he walked into the bathroom. In a short while, the sound of vomiting came from inside. It was obvious that the drunk person wasn't feeling well. What was it this time? Was it because of those relatives who wanted to fight for power? It seemed like it was time for Su Qing to find out who Black Flame was. Hoshino stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, pressing the intercom. "Get someone to cook some hangover soup and porridge, send it over." "Yes, young Master Hoshino." This was the most peaceful day in recent times. Every time this happened, there would be people who wanted to spend the night with the boss. How many pale faces would leave? They couldn't remember. Fortunately, young Master Hoshino was here today. Boss seems to agree with young Master Hoshino, both of their auras are so strong. Of course, look at who they are. Boss listens to young Master Hoshino because they have known each other since young. You've known each other since childhood. Yes, I also heard it from the family. When they were young, Boss and young Master Hoshino were really inseparable. The two of them were different from other children. They would always lie under a tree and read books together. They would even fence and shoot together. At that time, were the two of them like this? It can be said that the leader has never changed, but young Master Hoshino disappeared for a period of time because something happened to his family. But when he came back, he didn't seem to be as close to the leader as before. Some people say that it's because they've grown up. That's right, Hoshino wouldn't be able to hear these discussions. All he heard was that the bathroom had been silent for a long time. He glanced sideways and glanced at the hangover soup and porridge that had been sent in. He waited for another 3 minutes, but there was still no sound. Only then did he stroll in. After opening the door, steam rose up from the hot water. Chapter 1720. He was like a vampire aristocrat who was in deep sleep. Even that face seemed to be able to bring out the suffocating beauty of a rose. However, Yusishi knew that his current appearance wasn't attractive to that person at all. The moment this thought appeared, the footstep stopped beside his ear. Hoshino raised his hand and pulled out a towel. He looked down at the person in the bathtub, looking a little like the most competent deacon in a manga. He placed the towel over Yusishin's head, his gaze faint. "What are you doing?" Yusishin opened his eyes, his gaze extremely sharp. "You didn't terminate the contract with Hoshino, you know what requirements I have for the people around me." Hoshino's voice wasn't loud or soft. "What requirements?" "You can only look at me." Yusishin stretched out his hand and pulled his collar, the smell of alcohol lingering. Hoshino glanced down at his hand, his aura didn't change. "Didn't I say earlier that I will abide by the words I said when I entered the main family? Since I became a death attendant, I will only look at you in the future. The main family's contract is really useful." Yusishin's smile deepened, but there wasn't any warmth in his eyes. Hoshino checked the water temperature. "It's getting cold, wipe it clean and come out." With that, he stood up. He could hear the splashing sound behind him. Yusishin did walk out of the bathtub with a towel around him, but the first thing he did was to hug Hoshino's waist from behind. Then, a low voice sounded. "You promised to sleep with me, don't go back on your words." Hoshino glanced down and felt the moisture behind him. He didn't take this action to heart. He just glanced over and said faintly, "Let go." Yusishin's extremely beautiful eyes narrowed at this moment, then he said slowly, "I won't let go." Hoshino's aura seemed to always be like this, he wouldn't allow anyone to continue messing around. Even Yusishin was the same. He removed the hand on his waist and walked out of the bathroom. Yusishin's gaze, which was about to follow the back view, sank. That person walked in again, a bathrobe hanging on his arm. "Lower your head." Yusishin still reeked of alcohol. He did as he was told. Hoshino reached out and helped him put on the bathrobe. Looking at his unhappy face, he thought about it and said slowly, "I'll stay with you like I did when we were kids." "Isn't that enough?" Yusishin paused but didn't raise his head. "Like when we were young." Hoshino grunted in acknowledgement. His gentleness didn't change. He handed him a towel before walking back to the bed. Yusishin wanted to say, "You know I want more than this." But he didn't say this out loud. In any case, they were going to sleep together later. Since there was a breakthrough, then there was no need to think too much. At most, he would use force. Thinking about this, Yusishin's lips curved upwards. That kind of smile indeed looked like a beautiful snake spitting out its red tongue. However, it was clear that his seductive, androgynous beauty, under his deliberate efforts, did not arouse that person's interest. Yusishin smiled. When he came out, he saw that the person was already lying on the bed. Yusishin simply walked over. First, he pressed down on Hoshino's wrist. Then, he bent down slightly. Under the bathrobe, porcelain white could be faintly seen. It was cold to the touch. Many people felt that he was a cold-blooded animal. It was probably because Yusishin's body temperature was slightly low. He lowered his body and his gaze met Hoshino's. Indeed, he had to use force. Chapter 17:21. Before Yusishin could do anything, he was pressed back by Hoshino's backhand. Yusishin narrowed his eyes and said slowly, "Aren't you going to abide by the agreement and be my shadow? Aren't you going to let me touch you? You're so drunk that you don't even want your hand." Hoshino leaned against Yusishin's ear when he said this. Yusishin glanced down. Indeed, because of the alcohol, his strength was weaker than usual. "Why? If I really make a move, will you really break my wrist?" "No." Hoshino looked at the handsome face that was inches away from him. His gaze was still the same as usual. This word made Yusishin bury his face into the pillow. "Then let go. It seems like you really underestimated your influence on me. If you speak into my ear like this, I'm going to have a reaction, heh." That have made Hoshino notice something. He wasn't joking, he was serious. His brows unconsciously furrowed, and he loosened his grip as he stood up. Yusishin, who was released, leaned there lazily. There was a sharp beauty in the corner of his eyes. "Why? Are you frightened?" Hoshino glanced at him. "When did it start? Don't you know that I don't discriminate between men and women?" As Yusishin spoke, he tilted his head and lit a cigarette in his hand. When he smoked, he was very handsome and had a kind of mischievousness. Hoshino retracted his gaze and took a step forward. Yusishin spoke again. "You want to break off your relationship with me? Or do you feel disgusted?" Hoshino turned back and looked at the person who laughed wantonly. He remembered that this fellow was like this when he was young. He would laugh no matter what he encountered, including when his mother tried to attract his father's attention. She often made him go to the main family with a swollen face. When he was young, he looked like a doll. He could make use of his surroundings, and no one could tell that he had cried before. It was said that children who were used as tools by their biological mothers didn't like to talk. But Yusishin was different. The smile on his lips would never disappear. Who bullied him? He would get revenge. He just needed to wait. Because of this. That was why he was here. Moreover, Yusishin didn't really like him when he was young. Hoshino could feel that although the man was smiling at him, there was no warmth in his eyes. But even so, the two of them were not the kind of people who would tear off their disguises. The innocence of a child seemed very far away from them. To some extent. No matter how unwilling they were at the time, they were still people who accompanied each other. In the first month, they will be like many sensible children. He would call him when he saw him. Hoshino, let's go practice fencing. It must be very interesting. Later on, the two of them confirmed that neither of them was pure. He didn't even greet him when he saw him. And he was even more so. On the 4th month, they were still together, but they had a childish fight. Because he saw his mother hitting him. Yusishin threatened him. If you tell anyone about this, none of us will have a good time. At that time, when he said this, the corners of his mouth were still curled up, just like now. But his hands were trembling, and his eyes seemed to be swirling. Chapter 1722. Forget it. Anyway, he already had his cat. It wasn't difficult to have one more. Hoshino reached out and took the cigarette from Yusishin's hand. He put it out in the ashtray. Let's talk. Yusishin paused, his gaze deepened. I don't want to talk. Anyway, you're rejecting me. When Hoshino heard this, his gaze paused. His aura didn't change. Who said that I'll definitely reject you? This sentence caught Yusishin off guard. He froze on the spot. Even his eyes were a little round. The more he looked at him, the more he looked like his cat. Hoshino reached out and pinched his chin. His gaze was still calm. Many women outside say that they'll feel happy when they kiss you. They probably haven't seen your expression before. After he mentioned it, Yusishin seemed to have realized something. He smirked evilly. Indeed, it will be very happy. Do you want to try? No need, I can't accept it now. Hoshino's words were true. He liked women. But in terms of feelings, Yusishin was more important. It was probably related to the environment he grew up in. Hoshino had always been indifferent towards women. Z was an exception. This person was an exception too. Hoshino could clearly see that person's eyes dimmed after he finished his sentence. He didn't know why. He just didn't want to see this person grow up to be like this. Lonely, like a person without a goal. He paused and added another sentence. When I can accept it, I'll try it with you. Hoshino, this sentence of yours sounds like what you said to Beitai. Yusishin smiled slowly. There was a hint of viciousness in his voice. I won't wait for you to accept it. I'll take action when I have the chance. If not, I won't like you anymore. Why must I like you? Yes, why must he like this person? How many people were waiting to climb into his bed? Women, men. She was handsome and beautiful. They were all queuing up to be taken by him, yet, he took a liking to someone he would never be able to get. Hoshino looked up. His aura was pure. You can take action. The unexpected answer made Yusishin glance over. You won't give me a chance to attack. Hoshino looked at the back of his slightly red ears and knew that he had realized what he had said. He lowered his voice and said, if that's the case, do you think I would be here? Yusishin laughed again and pulled him over. Then you have to explain it properly. Why can't you accept it now? Are you worried that my skills aren't good? Don't worry, I will make it very comfortable for you. After all, you have no experience. Hoshino looked at him, his eyes deep. Who gave you the illusion that I'm the one down there? Yusishin chuckled. Are you like those people? Do you think that because I have such a face? Before he could finish, Hoshino's voice rang out again. Plato, if you really want. Plato. Yusishin narrowed his eyes, his vibe as venomous as a snake's. I reacted when you talked to me like that just now. You want me to be Plato? Hoshino was emotionless. You reacted just by talking to me like that. If not, how do you think I noticed? You see, Sheen suddenly paused when he said this. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.